My name is Emma. I was born in a small town in Ohio. My parents spoke only Spanish, but we moved to the US when I was 7. I remember my first day at school in America. I couldn't understand a word. I felt lost, like I was in a world where no one could hear me. I cried in the bathroom because I couldn't ask for help. My teacher, Mrs. Johnson, noticed my struggle. She sat with me during lunch and spoke slowly. She smiled, and I tried to smile back, but my heart was heavy. She pointed to a book and said, "Start here." That was my first step toward learning English. Now, I want to share with you my 10 tips to improve your English. Each tip is a memory of my journey, a moment that helped me grow. English changed my life, and it can change yours too. The first tip is simple: start small. Mrs. Johnson gave me a children's book. I remember feeling silly reading it because I was already 7, but it was easy. The words were short, and the pictures helped me understand. One page at a time, I began to learn. You don't need to rush. The biggest journeys begin with small steps, Mrs. Johnson used to say, and she was right. Tip 2: speak every day. I was shy. I didn't want to talk because I was afraid of making mistakes. One day, at the park, a girl named Lily asked if I wanted to play. I wanted to say yes, but I didn't know how. She held my hand and said, "It's okay. You can speak." Her kindness gave me courage. From that day, I promised myself I would speak, even if my words weren't perfect. "It's okay to be wrong," Lily would say. "Just try." My third tip is about listening. I would sit in front of the TV and watch cartoons. At first, I didn't understand anything, but I listened carefully. I started catching a few words like hello or bye one day. I was watching my favorite show, and suddenly I understood a whole sentence. I cried because I felt like I was finally part of this new world. Listening is learning. Even when it feels hard, don't give up. The fourth tip is to write your thoughts. I had a little diary. At the end of each day, I would write one sentence, just one. It was simple: today was good, or I am happy. Over time, my sentences got longer. I wrote about my day, my dreams, and my fears. Writing helped me clear my mind, and it made me love English more. It was like my heart could finally speak. Tip 5: don't be afraid to ask for help. There was a time when I couldn't understand the homework. I felt embarrassed, thinking everyone else knew the answer. But then, my friend Jack said, "No one knows everything. Asking for help is okay." So, I went to my teacher and said, "I don't understand this." She smiled and explained it to me slowly. That moment taught me that it's okay not to know everything. The sixth tip is to read out loud. I used to read in my head, but one day, Mrs. Johnson asked me to read a story out loud in front of the class. My hands were shaking, and I thought I might cry. But I started reading, and to my surprise, my voice got stronger. The words felt more real when I spoke them. From that day, I read everything out loud: books, signs, even cereal boxes. My confidence grew. Tip 7: Learn from your mistakes. Once, I called my teacher mistake instead of Mrs., and everyone laughed. I was so embarrassed, but Mrs. Johnson said, "Mistakes are how we learn." I still remember that moment, and I smile. Each mistake is a lesson. Don't be afraid of them. They make you better. Tip 8 is about finding what you love. I loved music, so I started listening to songs in English. I would sing along, even if I didn't understand all the words. Music made learning fun. Whether it's songs, books, or movies, find what you enjoy and learn through it. Passion makes the process easier. The 9th tip is never give up. There were days when I wanted to quit. English felt too hard, and I thought I would never be able to speak fluently. But every time I felt like giving up, I remembered why I started. I wanted to understand the world around me. I wanted to talk to new people, make friends, and be a part of something bigger. So, I kept going. And you should, too. Finally, my 10th tip is to believe in yourself. There was a day when I spoke to a group of people without thinking twice. I wasn't scared anymore. I had found my voice, and it felt strong. English gave me that. It gave me confidence and opened doors I never thought possible. If you believe you can, you will, Mrs. Johnson used to say, and she was right. Learning English wasn't easy. It was full of tears, doubts, and fears. But every word I learned made my world bigger. Now, I can talk to people from different countries, read books I never dreamed of, and express myself in ways I couldn't before. If you are struggling with English, remember this: you are not alone. Everyone starts somewhere, and every step, no matter how small, brings you closer to your goal. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be scared, but don't stop. Keep going. Because English, like any language, is not just about words. It's about connection. It's about finding your voice in a world full of voices. And once you find it, you'll never want to let it go. So tell me, what is your next step in learning English? What has been your biggest challenge? Let's keep learning together. I believe in you. Hello, my name is Emily, and I want to share a story about learning English. It is not an easy journey, but it is worth every tear, every late night, and every moment of doubt. I was once a shy girl, afraid to speak in front of others because my English was poor. But I learned something important: don't give up. When I was younger, I struggled. I remember being in class and the teacher asked me to read. My hands shook. I felt the tears in my eyes. I read, but my voice was low and I stumbled on the words. I wanted to hide, but the teacher smiled and said, "Good job, Emily. You are learning, and that's what matters." That day, I learned my first lesson: it's okay to make mistakes. In fact, you have to make mistakes to grow. Every time you stumble, you take a step forward. It's like learning to walk. You fall, but then you stand up again. I started with basic words. Apple, cat, run, happy. I carried small flashcards with me. On the bus, at the store, I would take them out and repeat the words. Apple, cat, run, happy, over and over. I felt silly at first, but slowly, my confidence grew. My mother, who spoke very little English, would sit with me every night. We would read children's books together. She didn't understand everything, but she always encouraged me. "Keep going, Emily," she would say. "One day, you will speak like those people on TV." Her words gave me hope. Even though she struggled, she believed in me. I remember another time in school when I was asked to write a story. I sat there, staring at the blank page, unsure how to begin. My classmates were writing quickly, and I felt so far behind. My teacher saw me and came over. She knelt by my desk and whispered, "Start with what you know, Emily. Write one word." Then another. So I wrote girl, then happy. Slowly, my story grew. And when I finished, I was so proud, even though it was only a few sentences. Tip: start small. Write simple sentences. Even if it's just "the girl is happy," then add to it. The girl is happy because she has a new book. Keep building, one step at a time. As I grew older, I wanted more. I watched movies in English with subtitles. At first, it was hard to understand, but I kept watching. One of my favorite movies was Finding Nemo. I loved how Dory would say, "Just keep swimming." I repeated that to myself when learning English became tough. When I didn't understand a word, I looked it up. I learned new phrases like "don't give up" and "you can do it." There were times when I felt like crying. English seemed so big, and I felt so small, but I kept going. I would talk to my friends in English, even when I was afraid of making mistakes. Some of them laughed when I said the wrong words, but others were kind. My friend Sarah would always say, "Emily, you're doing great. Don't stop now." That encouragement meant the world to me. Tip: surround yourself with people who support your journey. Friends, family, teachers find those who lift you up when you feel down. Learning English is hard, but with the right people around you, it becomes easier. One day, I had a big presentation in front of the class. I was so scared. My stomach hurt, and my hands were shaking. I wanted to run away, but I remembered all the times I had practiced. I stood up, took a deep breath, and began. The words flowed out of me. They weren't perfect, but they were mine. When I finished, the class clapped. I felt tears in my eyes. That moment changed everything for me. Tip: practice speaking as much as you can, even if it's in front of a mirror or with a friend. The more you speak, the more comfortable you will feel. I kept learning, little by little. I moved on to harder books. I read Harry Potter and learned words like bravery and courage. These books taught me not just new words, but new ideas. English opened a whole new world to me. I started thinking in English. I would wake up, and the first words in my mind were in English. It became a part of me. Tip: read as much as you can. Start with simple books, then move on to harder ones. Don't rush. Enjoy the process of learning. As I became better at English, something amazing happened. I started helping others. My friend Maria, who moved to the US from Mexico, struggled like I did. One day, I saw her sitting alone, looking sad. I sat next to her and said, "I know how you feel." Her eyes filled with tears, and we talked. I shared the things I had learned. Slowly, she improved, and seeing her grow made me so happy. Tip: teach others what you learn. When you help someone else, it strengthens your own understanding. One day, I realized something. English was not just a language anymore. It was a bridge. It helped me connect with people, make new friends, and understand different cultures. It gave me a voice. I could express my feelings, my thoughts, and my dreams in a way I never could before. And that, to me, was the greatest gift. There was a time when I almost gave up. I thought, maybe English isn't for me. Maybe I'm not smart enough, but then I remembered something my grandmother told me: Emily, the river doesn't stop when it meets a rock. It finds a way around. Those words stayed with me. I didn't stop. I found my way around the challenges. Now, I speak English fluently, but I never forget the girl who sat in class, scared to speak, scared to make mistakes. If I could talk to her now, I would say, Emily, don't give up. You're stronger than you think. Keep going, and one day you will look back and be so proud of how far you've come. Tip: be patient with yourself. Learning a language takes time. Celebrate the small victories. So, to anyone reading this who is learning English, I want to tell you, don't give up. Yes, it's hard. Yes, there will be days when you want to cry. But remember, every word you learn, every sentence you write, every mistake you make brings you closer to your goal. You are growing, even if you don't see it yet. And one day, you will wake up and realize, I did it. You will look back on the journey, on the tears, on the struggles, and you will smile. Because you didn't give up. You kept going. Remember, English is not just a language. It's a way to connect with the world. It will open doors for you, bring new opportunities, and help you share your story. So, don't be afraid. Take that first step, and then the next. And always, always believe in yourself. In the end, it's not about being perfect. It's about trying, learning, and growing. As Dory said, just keep swimming, or in our case, just keep learning. And if you ever feel like giving up, remember my story. Remember that shy girl who was too scared to speak. If I can do it, so can you. I believe in you. And I can't wait to hear your story. Now, tell me, what is your English learning journey like? How have you grown? Let's share our stories together, because we are all in this journey of learning, step by step. Keep going. Don't give up. You're closer than you think.